I'm Tom Norman, a business development manager at Arrow in the VMware team, and today I'm here with Steve Horobin.
Hi, Tom. My name is Steve Horobin. I manage the pre-sales team here at Arrow in our modern data center practice.
Lovely. So way back when I first started at Arrow, our current leader at that time, I think he came to me and I didn't really know the difference between public cloud, private cloud. And I think being a lad from Barnsley, he was like, this guy will understand what kind of coal is, power stations. So he kind of described private cloud to me as a factory having its own in-house power station. Works great, big companies, they need that sort of thing. And then he said, kind of public cloud, that's more of a power station that sits there. It can kind of feed the masses, which that's great for me and you. If we have a power cut, we can survive, right? We light a few candles, that sort of thing. If you're the NHS, that just can't happen. So I think that power station in there is still definitely needed for some businesses. For the new people to the industry, have you got any sort of like analogies like that? Private cloud, public cloud, that sort of thing?
Yeah, let's have a think. Well, what's the best way to phrase it? I think public cloud we term as probably the hyperscalers. It's a name I heard some years ago, and it's basically the big boys in the industry.
Yep.
For example, Amazon offer their web-based capabilities. Now, Amazon, if you remember where they started from, they were a bookstore, an online bookstore. And they bought all the IT technology to run their online business. But it got to such a stage that they bought a lot of technology, and then some of it was sitting there doing nothing. So they were thinking, well, what do we do with this? So came along this concept of cloud. So if we have this technology that we're not using for our online bookstore, and we can partition it in some way to allocate areas of that to different organizations or companies that may want to come and share it, then that's going to enable me to use my technology that I've invested in a better, more adaptable way. So, that came along, and a way they developed their business, they grew more, they added more technology to it. To this day, they're one of the biggest hyperscalers on the planet.
Yep.
Other organizations have come along. Let's make sure we mention them. You've got the likes of Microsoft and AWS and Google and Oracle. And all these organizations have realized that if they buy technology and then have a means of slicing it up to allocate resources to different tenants,
Yep.
and that's the phrase they use, tenancy, then each tenant has their own little individual environment, but within the larger data center. And we're talking a sort of gigawatt scale data centers these days, which is pretty phenomenal. Thousands of racks, hundreds of thousands of servers, lots of technology in there. So it's probably the best analogy, I guess, if you look at a block of flats, where you may have 20 apartments in this block of flats. The block of flats is owned by one organization, but you have 20 flats, you have 20 tenants.
That brings around vulnerabilities, right?
That's right.
Walk down the hallway, knock on somebody else's door, whereas if you're in a detached house, I suppose that's all ring-fenced,
Great
right?
idea. Absolutely. So if you have your own environment, it's completely ring-fenced. So you're taking your flat out of that block and taking it separately and putting it somewhere else. So you don't have people walking down your corridor, knocking on your door and putting their big foot in and trying to steal your data. You have your own environment.
So Steve, you mentioned Amazon essentially created this hyperscaler platform by accident. What customers adopted that early on? Did they go all in, or would they then go in and then realize they need to pull out and keep something on-prem, private, essentially?
Yeah, I think originally we had this concept of cloud bursting, where organizations, we always talk about Ticketmaster, so they got their next Taylor Swift tours coming up. They're about to release all the tickets to the marketplace 10 a.m. on a Friday morning. If you can grab the amount of technology that you need to be able to handle all of those web-based requests for tickets, so it's looking at the venue, it's looking at the seat, how many seats do you want? Selected, I'll have those. Then the cost of those, passing it through to a payment engine, closing the deal and sending you your receipt. It's a lot of work for that. So you buy the technology that you need on a temporary basis, open up your ticket sales. Your ticket sales, if it's Taylor Swift, they've gone in 10 minutes if you're lucky.
Yep.
They've
Probably
all
quicker.
got-
You had to
all
queue to get. You
quicker.
had to queue to get in a queue. Apparently.
Absolutely, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, the technology then's used, but you don't need it anymore. So if you can then release that and put it back into the hyperscalers pool, then they can allocate that to somebody else who needs it. So that was kind of the concept of cloud bursting when it came along. Many organizations realized they needed that. Many people doing film and music and mastering, if you needed to do any pre-production or post-production for some of the big blockbusters, yes, I need that as I'm going through all the post-production. So again, I'm going to grab a load of technology, I'm going to do the work I need on the film, or the graphics editors, or the sound editors, or the touch-up artists, and all sorts of things. Great, as soon as you've finished and you've finalized it and you've closed it off and I've sealed it and that's the film, then you don't need the technology anymore. So
you still need the core, essentially, is your on-prem, and then you've got this ability to burst out to meet your business needs.
Absolutely. I think as the evolution went on from there, then we started to get to companies, small to medium businesses, even large businesses, it doesn't matter. So an SMB organization can say, great, I'm going to take some of this technology, but not on a temporary basis. I'm going to take on a permanent basis. So I'm going to take a 3 or 5 year deal, good value for money, I think. I'm going to take the technology and then I can start and develop and build some of my new applications or move applications out to the cloud. That's a great idea. Some of the corporate customers, again, we were talking, one of your colleagues about shadow IT.
Yep.
So again, you flash your credit card, you get a certain amount of resource, you got a 1 or 2, 3, 5 year contract, whatever it is, that's yours that period of time. So again, when you've gone from the cloud bursting side of it, and now people realizing, I can make long-term use of this, so I'll take it for a 3 or 5 year contract, then people started to realize there is something to this cloud thing. And that's the way, kind of the seed to the development of where we've got to today.
Awesome. So Steve, AI, everybody's talking about it. Every business seems to want to use it, even if they don't know why they want to use it.
Yeah.
How does a business actually know when they're ready to look at AI?
This is one of those topics that we could probably spend hours talking about. What is AI? How do I create AI? Can I sell AI? How do I monetize AI? It's one of those things you can't walk into a shop and say, I'd like to buy some AI, please. I'd like the green one. It's never going to happen.
No.
So somebody has to realize what is artificial intelligence and then make some real intelligence out of that. So from an organizational point of view, their wealth is in the data. All their knowledge, all their experience, all their capabilities, all their IP and intellectual property is in the data that they own. Now, if you have a means of interrogating your data, whether it's structured or unstructured, whether it's image-based or audio-based, and put that into some sort of sensible context where you can compare dissimilar fields and start making some sort of intelligence out of it, then you're starting to get to a point where you can say, great, over the last period of 12 months, we've been selling a lot of golf clubs. Now, of those golf clubs that we've been selling, why am I not selling golf balls associated with the golf clubs? Is there a correlation between the manufacturer's clubs and the manufacturer's golf balls that I'm selling? And those sort of correlations can be observed by using artificial intelligence. So what you're doing is you're training the system to start to look at comparisons that enable you to use that comparison then on data that you have. So it involves a little bit of training first, access to the data that you have, and then a repetitive deployment of that comparison, that artificial intelligence tool that you've now created. But the thing is, you never know what data you've got.
True.
You never know what you want to do. What are the issues and the problems and concerns that people may be having today that they think artificial intelligence can help them fix?
Yeah.
So, it's not just Copilot or ChatGPT, useful tools, but if you can use them in the correct way, you can get so much more out of them.
So the data pool needs to be there first. Really.
Indeed. Every organization's got it.
Otherwise, you're putting a pair of Pirelli P0s on a Fiat 500. It's just not the right fit, right?
It's not the right fit,
Not
no.
the right fit, no. Thank you, Steve. So, Steve, cloud complexity, it's obviously an issue. people are trying to get to grips with it. How can businesses put a strategy in place to kind of take control?
Cloud complexity. Okay, so what we're looking at here is a number of different clouds or differing clouds. Again, we're back to the kind of the shadow IT thing, where you have different departmental heads have gone and used their credit card and signed up for Amazon and Azure and AWS and Google and all sorts.
Yep.
And you've got 5 or 6 departments running different clouds in different environments. So suddenly the IT manager says, no, you can't do this. Bring all that back in. You guys are designed to do what you have to do to move the business forward.
Yep.
I will help you with the IT. You obviously felt we weren't delivering because you went your own way, but let's bring that back under some sort of sensible control. So that cloud complexity then is you're looking at the different hyperscalers or even smaller hosting companies and seeing how to get some central control back from that. You also may have your own on-prem deployments. You may have VMware deployments already in your private cloud. So you've got external public clouds, you've got internal private cloud. You've got to start and get some control over those. Now, hybrid cloud at the end of the day may have some relevance to your industry, to your deployment, to your market sector. So hybrid cloud may be the best way to go forward. Then you're retaining your on-premise private cloud. You've got your VMware deployment because of regulatory requirements or compliance, data sovereignty. You have to have your own private cloud, and you're keeping your data in your data center in your country to get that sovereignty. So that may be a requirement.
So if we're talking hybrid cloud, then what are you looking, or what would you be looking to send out to the public cloud? What are you looking to keep on-prem or run? Where would you run what? Or what would a business need to do?
It's I guess
There might not be a straight up answer.
No. It's accountability, I guess. And we were talking about ROI with one of your other colleagues as well. If I have a hybrid cloud environment and I have my own on-premise deployment, but I also have accounts with the top 5 hyperscalers, then I've basically got 6 areas that I could potentially deploy a virtual machine. Now, if my environment is large enough that I can move my environments around to the hyperscaler, giving me the best value for money, then that's a good way of saving money.
Yeah.
But you've got the complexity of having to move that environment around. Can you do it online? Are you moving from a hosted VMware environment on one hyperscaler to a hosted VMware environment on another? Do you move your data with that? Do you storage vMotion? A lot of complexity comes into that.
So obviously on private cloud, VCF9's got ARIA Suite built in, which monitors kind of health and efficiency of virtual machines. So I don't know if you want to expand on that a little bit more.
Yeah, a fantastic utility. It's gone through a number of renames, I guess, over the previous iterations. But now there's a release where you can have a significant management and ownership capabilities looking at your whole environment.
Yep.
I've been into a lot of large data centers and operational suites. And generally, they will have a lot of big screen TVs on the wall, big sort of 60, 70, 80-inch screens. And it looks really, really impressive. Because
sounds like mission control at NASA or something like that.
It is, exactly. But you can glance at the screen and see there's nothing red on the screen, we're doing really well. So there's something red appears, it flags it up on the screen, you probably have a little buzzer go off or something, but you realise I've got a runaway application there, something's looping, I need to kill it quickly and sort it out. What's caused that? Was it a problem with networking? I've had a NIC failure, I've had a fibre cable, that the cleaners pulled a plug out and put a vacuum in. It happens.
Yeah.
It happens. So those sort of environments, what you can see is, my brain tends to think in pictures. And if I can see a picture of my environment and everything's looking sweet, and I can see all my virtual machines ticking over, and the IOPS and the storage is well within the boundaries of what I want, and networking traffic certainly within the pipelines I've allocated to it. Sweet environment.
Absolutely perfect. And I suppose lastly on this subject, we talked about how the technology can help the businesses. As an individual starting out, so say you're very you're technical minded, you see that's what you want to do in the industry. What would your advice be to kind of a young professional coming in who wants to kind of make the way in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've got kind of 42 years experience in IT. When you're coming into the industry, it depends what you're coming in to do. If you're coming into the virtualization team, you'll be allocated certain tasks. So you may be managing the storage or managing the networking. So you'll be educated through Arrow Education with the VCF9 toolset, how to monitor, measure, manage your storage. So you look at the storage and the way it's deployed over the number of servers within your cluster or your clusters. Make sure that you have the right capacity, you haven't over-allocated, and you're delivering the IOPS or the throughput that the applications desire. So you can be trained into that kind of environment and understand what you need to do. So our education is a great starting point for that. But you may think that storage is not my bag, really. I'm looking at networking. Yeah. I'm looking at nice big fat pipes and how I can allocate different channels on my fiber cable and stuff like that. Lots of buzzwords thrown around, I guess. But in a virtualized environment, you still have a network. Although it's a virtualized network, you still have exactly the same characteristics of a network that you need to monitor, measure, and manage. And that's all built into the suites available from VMware.
Everybody talks about AI taking people's jobs. There's still going to be a need for people like you and the younger generation coming through in 20 years?
AI taking people's jobs? I don't think it's going to. It's going to enhance people's roles and jobs. It's going to provide a different facet to business. And that's what people need to understand. At the moment, people are threatened by it. You're only threatened by something you don't understand.
True.
So if you start to understand what AI is going to deliver and the benefits that can bring along, then I think you're going to be able to ride the wave of that. We're still on the infancy of AI. It's barely broken the back of it so far. So much more is to come down the road. So much more.
Amazing. Thank you, Steve.
It's a pleasure.